What's up, guys?
Good evening and welcome to a sensational episode 6 of Sugar and Silk, starring myself, Ben Doughty, plus
myself, Michael L Olajide Jr. And today we have our super guest,
Michael second to none. Sorry, he was supposed to say that, not me.
Michael second to none.
Guys, I want to establish a rule at the start of this show, right? If I say Silk, I'm talking to you there in the middle, yeah? If I say Michael, I'm talking to the champ over here on the right. Otherwise, it's going to get real confusing, all right? So, Michael, we're absolutely blown away to have you with us here tonight. We had some teething problems, you know. You were a ring genius, a boxing genius. You never said you were a computer genius.
Well, no, I got to work a little bit harder, man. I got to focus and work a little bit harder.
It's great to have you here, you know. We want to talk about you predominantly on this show tonight, but just before we do, I just want to recap a little bit of current affairs in boxing. I don't know if your old weight division last night was somewhat in the news when Jamie Munguia, the Mexican middleweight, had a stoppage win over one Gonzalo Correa, and he's called out Gennady Golovkin for the Cinco de Mayo festival day next year. Can I ask, first of all, Michael, are you a big fan of boxing these days, and do you stay abreast of all the fights?
Well, I try to stay in tune. You know, I watch the good fights that they usually have. I mean, we missed out on a couple of good fights this year. Hopefully 2023 will captivate boxing back to the forefront where it needs to be. So I'm looking forward to some big fights in 2023.
Have you seen much of Jamie Munguia, the up-and-coming middleweight?
I seen him probably about when he fought in San Diego about probably 8-9 months ago. I think I seen him, you know. Yeah. I seen him one time up close.
Do you give him a shout against Golovkin these days? I mean,
well, you know, anytime that you're trying to fight for a world championship, you're gonna do whatever you got to do to become a champion. So you got to give him an opportunity, no doubt about it. I mean, we just need to see him fight. Don't talk about it. You know, put him in the ring and fight, because that's what boxing is all about. We need to see creative fights. We need to bring boxing back to the forefront. Whatever it takes, we need to make it happen.
What do you do you feel is an increasing tendency for fighters to avoid each other nowadays, more than they did in your era and the eras preceded you?
There's no way in the world that I could have became a world middleweight champion back in my era with all the great fighters, me not fight the best fighters. It's impossible. I mean, I don't know how they're going about doing it, but they're doing it. I mean, it's unnecessary. You know, fights are one inside the ring. You know, we talk until we turn blue in the face. It means nothing. You know, hey, I can't be in New York, you be in London, and then Mike be over in Berlin or something. Hey, man, we got to bring it to the board. We got to fight, because fights are one inside the square. And I just want to see these guys fight and quit talking.
So,
exactly. Well, they're gonna now with the who is it with the lightweight fight is gonna happen.
Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. They reckon that's a done deal for next year in April. They're both gonna have a tune-up in January, it seems.
Well, no doubt about it. Well, Joe Goose is my former trainer, and he's training Ryan Garcia. So I'm looking forward to that fight. You know, Tank Davis is a good friend of mine, and him and his trainer and his people, and it's just gonna be a great fight. And I think they're gonna set the year off just right, and hopefully, like I say, they can continue to keep that circle of champions fighting each other, because boxing is such a great sport, man. We got so many great fighters in different weight classes. We just got to get these guys in the ring together and make these fights happen. As long as we do that, we're going to bring boxing back to the top.
Is Tank Davis, in your eyes, is he the best fighter pound for pound in the world today, or if not, who is?
Well, he's definitely one of the best, man. I'm not going to take nothing for Tank. I mean, the young kid is doing everything he's supposed to do as far as putting his work in, and then he's winning fights inside the ring, and he's doing what he needs to do. So, you know, he's definitely one of the top fighters in the world. I mean, he's in the pound for pound, no doubt about it, man. I mean, he's proven that with all his performance he's put on. I mean, he's stretching guys out. I call him the Mike Tyson of that lightweight division, because you don't want to get hit by this guy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, hey, but there's so many good fighters in that division. You got Darren Haney, you got Ryan Garcia, you got even the kid Cambosa, even though he lost to Haney twice, but you got great fighters. Then you got Lomachenko. You got so many great fighters, man. And
where you stand on Lomachenko, Michael?
I only seen him fight a couple times. I'm very impressed with the kid, because I guess he hurt his shoulder. Now he's coming back, and he had one fight and he didn't look as sharp. But just like anything else, he get his sharpness back and get his skills back, he'll be okay, because he's still one of the best fighters in the world. I mean, you know, he's won the opportunity to prove it. I think he's going to fight Haney, if I'm correct, and I'm looking forward to seeing that fight. And that Darren Haney, man, he's a sensational fighter. He goes to Australia twice in a 6-month time span and beat this kid Cambosa. I mean, hands down. So that's having a lot of heart, man. I mean, to go to the guy's country and to beat him, not only beat him one time, but beat him twice. You know, I kudos to the kid, man. You know, I mean, I'm a big fan of his, and I just want to see the best fights.
Yeah. The lightweight division seems to be carrying it. That's for sure. Back
Well, no
in
doubt
our
about it.
day,
I mean, there's a lot of heavyweights in that division, and we just need to bring these guys, get them in the ring and let them fight, man. And we'll find out who the best guy is by everybody fighting one another.
that's what I'm saying. Like back in our day, like back in the mid to late 80s, competition. I mean, the middleweight division was stacked with talent. We had like,
I mean, everybody
young
could
guys.
fight, man. I mean, you had guys from all over the world. You had Mike there. Mike and I were in Berkeley on the East Coast. You had me on the West Coast. You had James, Tony, and Detroit. You had so many great fighters, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you had the guys over in Europe. We're not going to take nothing from Nigel Benn and Eubanks and
Exactly.
the other guys that was over there.
Sambu
Harold Graham.
Kalambe.
You had sensational middleweights. Our era was probably one of the greatest middleweights of all time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we had a dozen great fighters that any one of those guys on any day could win a world championship. The guys I just named, and a lot of those guys. You know
listen to these names for common ground. This is just between you and I, common ground, right?
Yes, sir.
Charles Campbell.
Oh man, wow.
Yeah, Jorge
Travis
Amparo.
Mills, good friend of mine.
Right? He's a great dude. Jorge Amparo.
Super great guy. Super great. Him and his family.
Randy Smith, Cecil Pettigrew, Frank Owens, Curtis Parker, Frank Tate, Aaron Barkley, Murky Sosa. Like those are the common grounds between the both of us. And
common opponents.
Yeah. Common opponents.
All those guys he named was tough as nails, man. Every last one of them guys, man, on any given day, they could beat anybody. You know what I'm saying? I mean, those are great fighters, man. I take nothing from none of those guys. And every last one of those guys can fight, Ben. Every last one of them. And they come to fight. You know, Murky Sosa, all them guys, man. Iran, Barkley, man. Come on, man. Pettigrew, all them guys, man. Charles Campbell.
Were you surprised by how quickly you dispatched Sambu Kalambe while we're on
I'm
that
very
subject?
surprised because going into that fight, you know, Joe Goosen had got us to training camp real early, and we done everything we were supposed to do. It wasn't really surprising, but I mean, I was glad to do it. But it kind of surprised me because we was looking to go out and pick our shots and box because, you know, Kalambe is a good fighter, man. I mean, he was a world middleweight champion as well.
Exactly.
And it was a lineal fight. He had two of the best guys in the division, you know, collide with one another. And for me to knock him out in like 88 seconds of the first round was historic. And I mean, you know, I worked super hard for the fight, and I want to give special thanks to my trainer, Joe Goose, to give me training camp and doing everything we needed to do because everybody that thought Kalambe was going to beat me, a lot of people. So, and for us to go out there and beat him in 88 seconds of the first round was astonishing.
Yeah, that was incredible.
So hard, and I thank God for giving me the strength to go out there and throw that overhand left and get him out of there in 88 seconds of the first round.
You know, Michael, I know from myself being we're all contenders at that time and coming up. And I remember sitting there watching that and I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. I mean, we were all expecting this to be something to, really see.
Well, everybody anticipated it to be a 12-round shootout because, like I said, he was a classic fighter. I just caught him, you know what I'm saying? And, that's what happens in boxing. When you least expect it, you go out there and you just, you put them shots, you run them shots, and if you catch a guy, you can get him out of there. Let me ask
something, Michael. Is it because, were you a puncher as an amateur? Because
I never really considered myself.
You dropped Curtis Parker, and Curtis Parker's a steel chin dude. He's got a granite chin. You put a 10 count on him. You put a 10 count on a lot of guys.
But the thing about it, man, I never just categorized myself as being a big puncher. I was what you would call one of the most consistent punchers. And I know if
that's
I
what
hit
Sugar
you,
said.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm the most consistent puncher. I know whether over 10 round duration of a fight or 12 rounds, I'm gonna hit you more than you hit me. And
do you think your effectiveness? Do you think your effectiveness as a puncher, like you hit them and you hurt them, do you think that was because of your power or more because they didn't see it coming?
Well, that makes a difference too. I mean, those are the most dangerous shots, the ones you don't see.
Yeah.
I'm just a consistent puncher. I'm not going to glow up on myself as being one of the biggest punchers in the division. But when guys underestimate me, I usually knock them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should talk about some southpaw. Now we've got a great southpaw who ought to be in the Hall of Fame, and I hope he gets in soon. Before us, we talk about southpaws a lot. Michael, everybody says against a southpaw, you move to your left and you throw the straight right hand. But you guys know all that already, right? Is that is that kind of simplistic advice?
One thing about a fight, Ben, you're going to be put in so many different predicaments and, they tell you to fight a guy this way, but that don't always work, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you got to offset your opponent regardless of what you're doing. That's the way a lot of guys go about fighting, but, I was so natural that I just done whatever I thought I had to do. I might go to the left, I might go to the right, I might step to the back or whatever. So it all depends on what you do good, you use your strength. And my strength was just my flexibility, my sharpness, my slickness, my quickness. So, it was just I done whatever I had to do to win the fight.
As a boxer, you always had to, as a boxer, Ben, I'm sure you know, you always have to adapt. You have to be.
You definitely got to adapt because
do anything.
Round after round, the fight's going to change. Now, if a guy's coming out trying to box you and he can't box you, okay, his trainer might tell him, well, okay, cut the ring off and turn it more into a slugging match. You got to figure things out as you go, man, because ain't no one guy just going to fight you the same way throughout the whole fight. And if he does, he set himself up for failure. You got to make adjustments in the fight.
And that's one of the incredible things about you. Now, you had a significant amateur background. How many fights you had? You had about 160 or so amateur fights?
Like 165, 168. Seemed like I was fighting every weekend when I was growing up in Iowa. It was amazing. I said, wow, I didn't realize I had that many fights until at the end we started counting. But, seemed like every week I was fighting, man. But it kept me out of trouble when I was young and kept me busy. And
how old were you when you started your amateur?
I started when I was 12 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay. Great time.
I
always think that's one of the great times to start when you're 12 because it's not like the punches really hurt. So it doesn't stop.
No, they don't. And then, you're young and crazy and you don't feel the punches at 12 years old.
Exactly. So it doesn't stop you from growing and experiencing and trying different things. It's easier to find your style. Now, were you always the style in which you had as a professional? Were you always like that? And who did you admire? Who kind of set that style up for you?
Well,
I've
always been a big fan of Muhammad Ali's and Sugar Ray Leonard. So I wanted to be just a super fighter, man, and those guys definitely encouraged me to be that. And I looked up to those guys. I admire so many fighters. Carlos Monzon, Salvador Sanchez, Marvin Hagler. All the legendary greats. Aaron Pryor, even. What's the name? Alex Arguello, Roberto Duran. I come up in such a great era as a young kid growing up in the 70s. These legendary great fighters, man. And they just inspired me to want to be a world champion. And with me getting an opportunity to see these guys fight on HBO, CBS, or Showtime as a young kid, and I was growing up watching these guys fight, even the pay-per-view fights. It just made me want to become a world champion. That's all I wanted to be, as a world champion.
Now I remember when we were coming up, when we were both in this entered the top 10 around the same time and moving up and positioning in ourselves. And there was a time after Hagler fought Mugabe that Hagler was kind of like, who's going to be my next opponent? And everyone was kind of like jostling for position because it sort of seemed like Hagler looked like he was slowing down at that time. As somebody who was a boxer, it may not have been a good fight for Iran Barkley, but for you or I, it could be a better fight because, we know how to stick and move and not stay in front.
We weren't going to stand in front of a guy like Hagler. We're going to, boxing, try to keep in the center of the ring. And
you want to be hard to find.
Legendary great, even in his elder age, he was still just a great fighter. He's a super fighter. So, fighting a guy like Marvin Hagler, you would have to be in tip-top shape and just, really fight all 12 rounds because he's coming to get you. And I just always admired him. And when I was coming up, I never really wanted to fight Marvin Hagler because as a young fighter, we was both up under the promotion of Top Rank Boxing. And when I go to Vegas and train, I used to eat with him and Pat and Goody Petronelli and a couple of sparring partners and the lawyer Stephen Wainwright. And, I'm a young fighter coming up, and I just never wanted to, be disrespectful toward Marvin Hagler. I never mentioned his name. I would mention Ray Leonard's name, Thomas Hearn's name, and Duran's name. And it's just out of respect because he has so much admiration for me. I'm going to tell you a story about Marvin. We was at Caesar's Palace, and he tell us, he'd be running 5:30 in the morning, right? I'm like, damn, got to get up because if you're not there, if you ain't outside in front of Caesar's Palace, just to drive right across the street where the Sands used to be on the other side of the hotel, that was 30 years ago, and we sit around back in the van, look here, and we get out, and then the people at the hotel would open the gate because it's a golf course, and we would run.
Yeah.
But see, you can never promise Marvin that you're going to be there. Don't be there because if you miss that run at 5:30, in 5 minutes the bus is gone. The van is gone. You left and you ain't out there. So if you miss that van, you don't want to go to the gym later that day. He won't even talk to you, man. You like the kid, the middleweight champion. You trying to get his autograph. He don't even want to talk to you. He was just so serious.
You never sparred with him or anything like that.
Man, he was just so serious, and he used to give me little pep talks and tell me the things that I need to do to become a world champion. He always told me, hey man, bring your judges with you. Don't depend on the promoter, the trainer, the manager, none of that. Hey, bring your own judges. And I said, oh yeah. So Marvin was just a great champion, and I got nothing but love and admiration for him, and I got a chance to meet his kids about maybe maybe 6-7 months ago out in Los Angeles, man. Super guys, man. Then I just seen him at the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame again in Las Vegas. But Marvin just a super guy. Then the Petronelli brothers, first class guys, man. First class,
Two things. I remember Las Vegas, going there in the early 80s, mid 80s. And I swear to God, it was like Caesar's Palace, the Showboat, and Tumbleweeds. That's all.
That's what it was. Yeah, Vegas done changed in the past 20-something years. No doubt about it. I went to Vegas for the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame back in August, and it's just a new world, man. I mean, it's just a brand new world with the big hotels, and it's just a new world. And I went to all the old hotels. They done renovated everything. Everything is just like a brand new world. It's a great city, and we love Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah. And then my second thing was when I originally met Marvin Hagler, was for the press conference. I believe it was for Hearns. And Sorry?
Your fight with Hearns.
No. It was for Hagler's fight with Hearns.
Okay.
And we were in New York. It was or it could have been Leonard, actually. It could have been the Leonard fight. And I remember meeting him, and we were introducing. We shook hands. He just looked at me. He goes, "Oh, they keep making you guys bigger now, huh?"
Yeah.
Like this, because Hagler wasn't like when you.
No, Marvin only like what, 5'8", maybe at the most.
Yeah, 5'9".
Do you know something? He might have been able to make like middleweight if he was like today with the day before weigh-ins.
Marvin could have made whatever division he wanted to make, man. I mean, he could have fought light heavyweight. He was just such a monster of a man. It wouldn't have done him no justice to fight at 154. He run through those guys. I mean, he was already beating bigger, stronger, physical men. So because you figure the middleweights he was fighting, they were cutting weight to get down to 160. They probably weighed 175 when they wasn't training. So I mean, but Marvin, he could have fought whatever weight class he wanted to fight because he was so determined and so hard working and so.
They talked about him. They talked about him fighting Marvin Johnson at one point, I believe,
and Michael Spinks.
Michael Spinks.
Wow. Well, them been some real creative fights. I mean, Michael Spinks and Marvin are both good friends of mine. So those were great fights, man. I mean, Marvin would probably had to try to turn to a slugfest because both of them were bigger and probably stronger, but you had to just force to fight. You know what I'm saying? I mean, then all of them were great punchers. You don't want to get hit by neither one of those guys. Michael Spinks, the Jinx, and then Marvin Johnson or Marvin Hagler, man. There would have been some great fights. You can't never count him out because he's gonna come to fight. It's just his mindset.
And it's interesting that there was no super middleweight division in his era, because if there had been, that wasn't quite such a gulf. And he may have been, I suspect you'd have stayed on middleweight anyway, because he was old school and he loved being a middleweight champion of the world. And he was.
It was not great. It was not great because, I mean, what he hold the belt for like 7-8 years? I mean, Carlos Monzon was the only one to hold it longer than him. So, I mean, no, he was just a middleweight. I mean, he was just stuck on middleweight. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he never had no problems making weight because, you're always in top.
So disciplined.
And he's very disciplined, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean,
I like to do, Michael?
Was probably designed for Marvin Hagler, that weight class.
You know what I love to do? I love to play like Dr. Fightenstein with you for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say an attribute of a fighter, like let's say punching power, and you tell me the first name that comes into your mind that makes you think. I'm going to go through a number of different attributes, and you just tell me the number one fighter. It could be yourself. It could be Ben. It could be me. It's okay.
Yeah. It ain't going to be me, I don't think.
It'll be blaming for us, man.
Okay, so if I say punching power, the first fighter that comes to your mind?
I would probably say Thomas Hitman Hearns in the middleweight division.
Yeah,
any division.
Any division in boxing.
Oh, any division? Well, there's so many great punchers. I mean, guys that like
the first
Johnny
one that comes to your
Gabi, Ernie Shavers. I mean, there's so many punches. I mean, man, wow, Carlos Zarate, Ruben Olivares. He had so many great punches, man.
So let me ask you for a second, Michael, because the first thing you said was Tommy Hearns. That came to your mind. Okay, I understand. I was going to ask you later, but I want to ask you now. Was there an opportunity for you to ever fight Hearns? And if you would have fought him, how do you think this fight would have went? I mean,
well, believe it or not, when I knocked out a guy named Darnell Knox on the undercard of the Thomas Hearns Juan Rodin championship fight, it was allegedly spoken of. If I got past Darnell Knox, which was like 28-0 with 27 knockouts, is one of Emmanuel Stewart's prized guys.
Prospects,
and I destroyed him in like 4 or 5 rounds. And I remember we was at the Las Vegas Hilton out in Las Vegas when we fought it. And I know we was upstairs in the room after the fight. And, Emmanuel Stewart was such a first-class guy. And let him rest in peace, a great man. He had came up to our room, and my mother, my family, and Bob Arum and Dan Goosen. Everybody was up in the room. Everybody's excited because, Emmanuel Stewart used to say, he used to tell Bob Arum and Dan Goosen, he said, well, once Darnell Knox get done with Michael Nunn, October 29, 1987, he said, you guys won't even mention Tommy Hearns' name no more, right? So after the fight, after we destroyed him in like 4 or 5 rounds, Emmanuel was first-class guy. He come up to the room with the Las Vegas Hilton, and he come up there and knocked on the door, and he said, hey, man, he said, I want to thank you, champ. I mean, give you congratulations. Man, a good fight, man. You really surprised me. I didn't think you were going to be able to do Darnell like that. And then, Dan Goosen and Bob Arum was on him like, well, what's up with Nunn and Hearns now? And, they get to arguing and stuff. He said, hey, man, the man just got done fight. You guys trying to put him in the ring and this and that. But, no, it was great that night, man. I mean, just crazy.
But that never came close to contractually.
Well, they always talk about it, but there was nothing never signed, sealed, and delivered. You know how boxing is, man. It was just allegations and talking about it, but just never, you know what I'm saying?
So were there any like super fights for you? I mean, you've had super fights, obviously.
Well, no, I know Steve Wynn, they had a contract me to fight Roberto Duran, and unfortunately it never transpired. I don't really know why. I just seen Duran about a month ago over in Atlantic City when we was all together, right? Yeah. That's Duran. I said, you owe me one, man. Let's do it. So, Duran started laughing. He said, no.
You know something? That would have been a horrible fight for Duran, as great as he was.
Well,
that would have been a horrible fight.
See, one thing about these guys, you can never take nothing from them. They're all legendary fighters. It's always easy when people say, well, you could have done this or done that. We don't know until we got in the ring and fought. Then you don't want to underestimate a guy like Roberto Duran because he's a tremendous puncher. I mean, he could box. He's slick. He's sharp.
So clever.
And then, just like anybody else. I mean, Duran had days that when he fought, man, he didn't want to get beat. I mean, and the last, good fight we've seen him in as he got older was probably the Marvin Hagler fight. Nobody anticipated him going the whole distance. And the fight with him and Iran Barkley. I watched that fight just the other day, man. That was a good fight, man.
Beautiful.
Duran was an older man, and he fought. He was slick. He was
He's masterful.
He let his hands go, and you can never underestimate these great guys. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
it's true, but you know why I think it'd be a horrible fight? I'll tell you why I think it'd be a horrible fight against Michael Nunn for Duran, and I rate Duran so much, and it's beautiful to watch him do what he did with Barkley. But he was sparring with Harold Graham, right? Harold Bomber Graham from Nottingham, England. And he was he did a few rounds, like a couple of rounds with Harold, and he said, "Who are you?" And Harold just said, "Well, I'm just one of your sparring partners. I'm here to train with you." And he said, "I don't want you. I don't want you." He couldn't do nothing with Harold Graham because Harold was an awkward nightmare too. And if he was struggling with Harold Graham like that in the gym, I just don't fancy his chances at that stage against Michael Nunn at his best.
You know what? Can I just say that I remember when Duran fought Tommy Hearns. And he had just for 1 second there was a light. He hit. I think Hearns went to throw a right uppercut, and Duran caught him with a right hand on the chin.
Wow! Look at that.
Yeah. It was a solid shot, and just for that second, it was like a hesitation. But obviously, Hearns didn't dip or anything. He was strong. He didn't lose it, but there was that time when he found his chin.
That's what guys do with strong chins. And one thing about boxing, you're gonna get hit. So best thing for you to do is just prepare, because I don't care how many rounds you're going, whether it's 1 round or 12 rounds, you're going to get hit. So that's why you go to training camp and get prepared for the fight.
Okay, next attribute, speed.
First fighter.
Any weight class?
Any weight class. If I say speed, who's the first guy that comes to your mind?
There's a guy named Howard Davis, a guy from New York. He won Olympic gold medalist with Sugar Ray
1976.
Speech Brothers back in 1976 in Montreal, Canada. Super fast guy, man. Super fast, super fast. I would definitely think of him. Let Mr. Howard Davis rest in peace. But he has some hands, man. And then for a heavyweight, let's go with Big Michael Dokes. Another guy.
Oh, man.
Super fast, you know what I'm saying? Super fast.
He's incredibly fast.
It's a great shout. Michael Dokes was super quick.
Chin. The best chin.
I'm going to say Evander Holyfield. Marvin Hagler. Zuma Nelson.
That's a good one. That's a good call.
Salvador Sanchez.
Oh man, he had
a fighter he was.
Julio Cesar Chavez.
Oh man, okay, you're ripping them up.
I like the way he's giving you like half a dozen instead of one.
Yeah,
because when you think of guys that take punches, there's so many great fighters out there that take punches, and not only take punches, they can withstand whatever you put down, then put it on you and get you out of there. So,
there's always one thing I've seen. There was always one thing that's always concerned me about people that know that can take a really good punch, and that's the fact that they don't always. Like they depend on that ability to take a punch, and that means they're just going to continue to take punches. Like if that's one of your leading attributes, not saying that's the way it was for Chavez or something, but if your main attribute is that you could take a great punch, like someone like Randy Tex Cobb,
Carl Froch.
Oh my God! Let me throw him in there.
Yeah, you just keep taking them instead of Carl Froch too, instead of getting your offense together.
It's not a good forte, but I mean, it's always good if you're a professional boxer to be able to take a punch. But you don't want to be getting hit that many times, too many times. Not over and over. I mean, you get hit 100 times. A fight over 12 rounds. I mean, we're talking about power shots. We're not talking about jab. We're talking about load up shots, man. That's a lot of unnecessary punishment for anybody because ain't nobody designed to take that type of punishment.
Let me ask you, Michael, do you feel anything do you think you're carrying anything from your boxing experiences? Like, do you experience memory loss? Do you experience pain throughout your body?
Believe it or not, I must say, Mike, I have no memory loss, none of that. I mean, when I tell people the dates of the fight and remember the guy's names and stuff, they're like, Mike, that was 20-something years ago. But I've been pretty fortunate. I thank God for that because, my thing was never to want to sit around and take a lot of punches, man.
Exactly.
And I think I credit that to, God give me the talent to be able to elude the punches and not want to go home all beat up and cut up in front of my kids and, my girlfriend and stuff and my mother. Every time you fight, you all cut up, beat up, you know what I'm saying? Why you want to fight or whatever, So it was just always my thing is not to get beat up, you know what I'm saying? Because I never wanted to be a guy that was known to take a lot of just unnecessary punishment because, I never really thought I had nothing to prove to really take a punch because to be in the ring, fight for world championships, you got to be able to take a punch. I mean, it's human nature, but, it's never no thing for me to just sit there and let guys beat me all upside my head or beat me to the body because you got to understand, Mike, you're a professional fighter and you're a great fighter. Hey, those punches hurt. And you're not telling anybody that, man.
Yeah, they hurt. They'll definitely keep you on the side of things. So let me ask you, next up, defense.
Oh, when I think of what for another fighter or for myself?
Yeah, another fighter.
I'm gonna talk about the legendary Pernell Whitaker. I love his style. He was a southpaw. He can go both ways. He was just so sharp with his defense, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then let's talk about Money Mayweather. I mean, he's one of the best too. I mean, he knows how to elude the big punches. He fought all the big punches. He beat him up over 5 or 6 rounds. He wore him down and was able to outbox him. So I mean, his defense was definitely impeccable, man. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Go ahead. How about you, Ben?
What, defensively?
Yeah.
I did a little thing, a top 10 of the best defensive fighters as far as I was concerned a few years ago, and I actually had Mayweather at the top of the list. I believe I may have had Willie Pep number 2. I think I had Nicolino Loesch was there, Benitez was there. See, the thing about Benitez, right? He was a defensive genius, but he got into wars too much. Benitez was a defensive genius who liked to have a slugfest sometimes.
One of the best.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Who else? I had Duran in the top 10, and I had I'm trying to think. I think I had James Toney in there too.
Oh yeah. Oh, you got definitely go James Toney in there too. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir. Yeah.
That's incredible.
I mean? How about good class of defensive fighters?
Accuracy.
Sugar Ray Leonard, Ray Robinson, and Muhammad Ali, and guys like yourself, and even me.
Yeah. You know what? You were extremely accurate. It was amazing to see the way you were able to string combinations together and hit people. Like I also put Tommy Hearns there only because it's he was incredibly accurate with the power he had, but then he hit you, and he's the only guy I've ever seen catch a guy on the way down. Like he's in full fall. He hit him. The guy's in full fall, hitting it, and he's able to hit him again before he hit the canvas.
And you know what? Ironically, Barkley did that to him. Barkley hit Tommy on the way down.
That's true. Iran Barkley was a big puncher. You don't want to be at the end of those punches, man. That guy can hit, man. That guy can hit. That guy hit like a heavyweight.
He does. Yeah, he brought
Iran, he's a middleweight, but he hit like a heavyweight.
Yep. And you know what it is? It's like both him, Iran Barkley, and James Toney, they had the same kind of like bone structure that.
Oh yeah.
Like you couldn't penetrate. Your punches couldn't really penetrate like that.
No. One thing about them, they both take great punches, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
2 great fighters, and they both take great punches.
Okay, so stamina.
Stamina, I'm gonna say Salvador Sanchez. I think myself. Muhammad Ali, because I mean, look at Ali. I mean, a machine.
15 rounds.
Marvin Hagler.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt about it. You know, I mean, to build that, they was fighting 15 rounds then. So I mean, just imagine. I mean, 12 rounds was long, but an extra 3 rounds onto that, you know, like an extra 9 minutes, be like, wow. 12
Joe
rounds.
Calzaghe had a great engine. Joe Calzaghe had a great engine.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I've seen this. Well, you know, I've seen him fight a few times. I like the style. He's a good fighter. I think he was a better fighter than what they gave him credit for. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but he had an engine, no doubt about it. Yes, he did. You know?
I'm gonna jump through these last ones real quick. Agility.
Michael Nunn.
Yeah.
Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali. We'll say Floyd Mayweather, and myself, and even you, Mike. You had good agility and good punch power. You got to run your shots off. You know
I appreciate you. But Hector Camacho, I thought, was extremely.
Well, yeah, we can definitely throw Hector Camacho in there, man. Camacho was a very deceptive puncher too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, sometimes when you punching that fast, and it might not look like you hit hard, but just be at the end of what the man's throwing, and he's hitting you solid. He gets you out of there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everybody always want to look at guys like big punchers like George Foreman, but it's not always just a one punch knockout guy. It's a guy, you know, running his shots off together, put them together, because, you know, if you can't knock a guy with one punch, because we all don't have the strength or the power to be able to just knock a guy out on a regular basis with one shot, but you put your shots together, you know what I'm saying? And if I know if I hit you with 3 or 4 shots, I can get you out of there, you know? Yeah. I'm placing my shots where they need to be, I can get you out of there. And then, like I said, not being the biggest puncher, but just being a consistent puncher. And, you know, that's what the legendary Sugar Ray Leonard said, be consistent. You don't have to be the biggest puncher.
So one of the most important attributes in fighters, especially when the competition, when the air is really thin, where you're fighting 2 guys that are at the top of their game, is heart. Which one for you? Who has the best heart?
Who has the best heart? I would say James Toney, Iran Barkley. You talking about guys I fought, right?
No, anybody.
Oh, anybody? Oh man, I'm gonna go with Sugar Ray Leonard. Very resilient. You know, Muhammad Ali. You know, I'm old school, but I like. I mean, very resilient. You know, the legendary Sugar Ray Robinson.
Joe Frazier.
Oh, we know that about it. We're very relentless. I mean, we will not. Hey, as long as he got air in his body, he's going to continue to fight no matter who he fights. If you're going to knock him out, that's what you got to do, because he's not going to run from you. He's going to fight. And I was just listening to something on Facebook yesterday, and I guess it was actually, I want to say, if I'm correct, George Foreman, like, how would Mike Tyson do it? Like guys like Joe Frazier, Kenny Norton, Muhammad Ali, and somebody else. And they like, well, you know, George unfortunately said that all those guys would beat Mike Tyson. He said Joe Frazier would be too much for him because he would fight this type of fight. Yeah. And I'm kind of like listening to George Foreman because, you know, he's a very knowledgeable, smart man. And he gave Tyson no chance against none of those guys. I'm like, well, you don't want to get hit by Tyson within bunch of rounds. I mean, so I mean, I think they've been great fights, because you figure George Foreman, I mean, one of the greatest punchers in the heavyweight division. He's so big and strong. You would probably give him the edge over Tyson, but you know, one punch can change the fight around. And then
with Foreman, I think with Foreman, George will be the last man standing in a punch out with Mike Tyson. Oh yeah. But with Joe Frazier and Mike Tyson, it's an interesting scenario. Yeah. I say if it goes a few rounds, if it goes past the 6th round, then it becomes a hard fight. I fancy Frazier. But Mike might have got Joe out there earlier. Might have done.
Well, no doubt about it. I mean, you don't want. It's like you don't want to get hit by Mike, within the first 2 or 3 rounds. I mean, as the fight go on, he might wear down, but within the first 2 or 3 rounds, you don't want to get hit by him.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, because that's when nutrition and condition takes over. And Mike, he knocked so many guys out, and he wasn't always probably in the best of condition due to the his strength of being so physical and so relentless and being able to run guys over. A lot of guys figure like, well, hey, I just trained for 5 rounds. I'm not going to train for 12 rounds because fight in their minds.
I think that was later in his career, right? I think that was when he was starting to get less, when he had less desire, less hunger.
Yeah, less desire. Because when Customato was living, and he always kept in supreme condition, and then he was just he's going to be hard out for anybody because he's going to be so relentless within 3 or 4 rounds.
You know something, Michael? I think there's a misconception about exactly when Cuss died. Cuss died in November 1985, and Mike had only been a pro for 8 months at that point. Okay. And I think a lot of people tend to think he died around about the Buster Douglas fight or shortly before that or something. Wow. I don't think it was Cuss's death that pushed Mike off the rails. I think maybe Jimmy Jacobs' death and the breakup of the old team was what did him more harm, and Kevin Rooney departing from his from from his team. I think that was more of a problem than Cuss's death in itself.
Okay, Michael. So let me ask you another question now. I have so many questions for you, brothers.
Go ahead, take your time, brother. We got time.
Okay, so who is the most amazing fighter you've ever seen that probably no one else, like just only people in the fight community have seen? For instance, like some of the most amazing fighters that I've ever seen that have never been out there, that have never made it, like crossed over into big time. I would say like Leon Cat Taylor. I don't know if you've heard of him. Joey Valence.
Andy Minsker.
Andy Minsker, Charles Carter.
I know Andy. Yeah, we all fought on the amateur teams together. Yeah. Well, Charles Carter was a real good fighter, no doubt about it. I thought he was going to be able to probably go further than what he done, but I don't know what happened to him. I mean, I know once I fought him, I never heard nothing else about him. No, Charles Machine Gun Carter was an exceptional fighter. And when I fought him, he had more fights than me. He had a little bit more experience as a professional, and was a good fighter. And I had number of respect for the guy. And very talented. I don't know what happened to him.
So you fought him as a pro. You didn't fight him as a pro.
Never as an amateur.
Yeah, because
we fought as a pro. Yeah,
he came up out of.
I want to say we fought at the Los Angeles Forum in Los Angeles, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were he was from out in the Pacific Northwest in his amateur career. And that's when I first saw him in the Seattle Golden Gloves. And then as a pro, he was my sparring partner. We brought him in for sparring.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah. Way back then. So I know a few guys who fought you that were my sparring. I know what was it, Carl Owens and Carter and a couple other guys. So we shared like common ground in a lot of ways, as we discussed earlier.
Well, but another good fighter was Carl Jones. I mean, he was a slick fighter. When we fought, he was I think he was like 14-0. I was like 12-0, and we fought. I won those. That was on NBC, right? Fight. And he's the first guy to knock me down as a pro.
Yeah, he had a crazy left hook. He had a
that guy had a crazy left hook, and it was weird because the first time I did it, I shuffled on him and I hit him with a combination, and then the second time I done it, he caught me with a left hook. And Ray Leonard was doing that fight. And I want to say CBS was doing that fight. Ray Leonard covered the fight, and Ray Leonard come to my dressing room after the fight and told me, he said, "You got the heart of a champion," because it was the first round when I got knocked down by a good incredible fighter, undefeated fighter. And when I got knocked down, it was kind of weird, Ben, because when I got hit, I went down. I was so embarrassed with my mother, my girlfriend, my kids, my family there. I jumped. Look, I was down maybe 1 second. I popped back up like a jump off boy, and I'm running at my man trying to fight him, right? And the referee stopped, told Carl to go over this corner, and told he had to give me a stand 8 count because I got knocked down, gloves, everything touched. I mean, no doubt, he knocked me down with a left hook. But what happened? Ray Leonard come back to the dressing room with Caesar's Palace, and he told me, "Hey, young man," he said, "you showed me the heart of a champion. You was very, relentless. Once you got knocked down, you didn't get up and go lay on the ropes and let a guy start pot shot you. I come back and hurt him toward the end of the first round." So, as Ray Leonard being a legendary great champion, he told me he liked my style because I didn't just get hit, knocked down, then get up there. Guys go lay on the ropes and let guys pound on them. I went at him.
Major confirmation.
I think I kind of threw Carl off by him knocking me down and me attacking him. Instead of going laying on the ropes or whatever, or running away from him. I went to him and I hit him with a combination, had him shook up before the end of the first round, but it was good that night. Carl was another good fighter though.
So your style is, I mean, you had an incredible style. You created openings with your head movement and you were able to take advantage of it. Like you're like that pitcher that could throw any kind of pitch. You could throw a slider, fastball, curveball, whatever it was. Who was your amateur? Who was your trainer as an amateur?
I had a few good trainers. The first guy was a guy named Alvino Pena. Let him rest in peace. He was a guy that was a former military man that been in my community for like 40-something years, 50 years, training fighters, man. And he was my first trainer. So, and he used to tell me when I was 12 years old, "You're going to be a world champion. You're going to work," because I don't know what it was, man. Everybody's seen the talent but me, but I'm young. I didn't know, you know what I'm saying? So he used to always tell me, "Oh, you beat any one of them guys." I mean, I don't care who it was. Tommy Hearn, Sugar. He just, "Hey, man, I can't wait till you fight these guys so you can show the world that you can beat these guys." I mean, he just had so much admiration and respect for me, man. And the way he used to get me in the gym, like the Golden Gloves would be coming up and I'd be running the streets and, doing whatever. And he'd be like, "Hey, I was in Des Moines last week, and Senator said he's going to kick your butt all over Des Moines if you come to the Golden Gloves and fight 147 or whatever. They're going to do this and do that. He just knew if he talks smack to me, he's going to get me to the gym. So he would give me the gym for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I go win the Golden Gloves. And but Albino Pena, great amateur coach, man.
And then you had like, who formed your style? Like, when did the Goosens come into the picture? I guess.
Well, what happened? Dan Goosen, they watched me fight at the 1984 Olympic boxing trials in Dallas, Texas, and I should have been fighting 156, and I tell people this all the time. But I guess Emmanuel Stewart goes to the Olympic Committee and tells Pat Nappy and everybody, "Hey, we need a stronger contingency at 165, so let's move Nunn up because I'm tall and rangy, and I can handle either division." But I think what Emmanuel was doing, he was making way for his man Frank Tate to win the Olympic gold medal. And see me, I was just a young guy. I was going to be done boxing after the Olympics. So I'm like, well, as long as I can fight, I don't care if I fight whatever weight you want me to fight, I'm going to fight. Yeah. So, they had me move up to 165, and there was a guy named Michael Grogan. He was the #1 middleweight in the world, and him and Virgil fought, I think, 4 times, and I think Virgil was 0-4 against him. I don't know why Virgil could never beat this guy, but I fought him twice, and I beat him both times. And, me and Virgil fought at the Olympic trials in the 165-pound division.
Yeah.
And I should have never really been at 165, but I was young and didn't care, and I just wanted to fight. And so after the Olympics, I was going to be done boxing. So Goosen got in contact with me and said, "Man, you can be a world champion," because I went to the Olympic trials boxing finals with no training, with nobody training me. Me just working out when I want to work out, and it was crazy, right? Mm-hmm. So Dan Goosen told me, "Man, if you can make the Olympic boxing trials finals with no training, and we bring you to California and put you in a structure," he said, "Man, you'll be champion in 3 years." So when we signed the deal, he told my mother, he said, "I guarantee you, this kid, if he's not a champion in 3 or 4 years," he said, I'll give you triple the money I'm giving you now." And so he was right, because it was good that Dan was at the Olympic trials and got an opportunity to see me, and I turned pro with him, and that was probably one of the greatest moves I ever made when it comes to boxing. Because I always wanted to be a professional fighter once I made my mind to be one. But I come from a little small community in Iowa. We never had a world champion, and they used to laugh at me because I was from Iowa. But when I beat up everybody, they respected me then. But like I say, I give a lot of credit to Dan Goosen for just being in Dallas at night and recognizing me and saying, "Well, wow, man, if we put this kid in the right structure and give the right training."
Really. So basically,
you have an opportunity. And then once I got to California and get an opportunity to work with Joe Goosen, hey man, we took off like a rocket. It was just amazing because Joe had been around the game and he worked with some good fighters, and he had a good talent in me, and he pushed me to all levels he needed to push me to get me to the pinnacle, which was the top.
What was Goosen's that what do you know was Dan Goosen's or the Goosen brothers? What was their experience with boxing? Had they?
Well, believe it or not, I mean, not a whole lot of experience because they were just really getting involved in the sport. They've been around the sport, just as kids and stuff, growing up and just loving the great sport of boxing. You got to figure we started off on first base together. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they never had no big fighters. I was their first world champion. They've had fighters, but no super fighters.
Had they fought themselves?
Pardon me?
Had they fought themselves? Were they boxers?
I think. Well, Joe grew up with a guy named Randy Shields. He was a welterweight contender back in the day.
Of course,
him and his dad, and he used to spar around with him and things of that nature. But no, just I think that was Joe's experience. But he loved the sport so much. You know what I'm saying? Then the other brothers, I think they just went to local boxing gyms and probably caught a couple rounds here and there with guys. But
so nobody really like altered your style in any way. You did what you
what happened when Joe seen how I fought, he just incorporated what just get me in the best condition and then just let me do what I do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he just got me in the best of shape, and he kind of like, just go out there and do your thing. And if he see me getting hit with certain shots, whatever, he tell me, well, do this or do that. And but no, he never really tried. He just got me in tip-top condition. And then, there's things he worked on with me. He tightened up my inside fighting game up. Because I turned out to be a great inside fighter, which a lot of people don't recognize, which is good because they would be asleep, and when they get inside with me and I beat them up, they like, we know the guy can fight inside. But Joe was great for me, man, because he brought out the best of me. And think about it, I never lost no fights with Joe. I think I was like 35-0 with Joe. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like we had a thing, man. I mean, he just knew what buttons to push. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was amazing.
So let me ask you, Michael. So For the was it for the when did Joe leave? When were you guys no longer working together?
Probably after the I want to say the Marlon Sterling fight. Or
After
the James Toney for the James Toney fight.
So the James Toney fight was the first fight he wasn't working in your corner.
Yeah, first fight. Yeah, and that was like my 36th fight. Cause I think I was 35-0 with Joe. Yeah, 35-0.
Exactly. So why did that happen? What caused?
Well, it was just a mix up. You know what I mean? Wasn't ain't no relationship perfect. It's just like things happen. You know what I'm saying? And
disagreements.
I think I was getting bored with boxing, and I don't blame nobody. I mean, but I think I was just getting bored with boxing because I wanted to fight Tommy. I wanted to fight Duran and Leonard, and I got tired of just fighting there. But I'm the middleweight champion. I'm like, hey, I really don't want to fight no more. I mean,
you wanted that super fight.
Well, I really wanted that super fight because I beat everybody they wanted me to beat, prior to that moment. And not to make no excuse. I mean, James Toney was the best man that night, but when I made middleweight that night, I knew I was never going to make middleweight again. So even though I'd beat James Toney, I would have to relinquish the middleweight title. But after the fact, I wish I'd have gave the middleweight title up before I fought James Toney. He was the best man that night. I take nothing from him. He's a dear friend of mine, and love him like a little brother. And he was just the best man that night. But I noticed after that night, I never was going to see middleweight again. So I wish I would have just relinquished my title and moved up to super middleweight. But I think it took for me to lose the title to realize that I'm not done boxing. I want to come back and do it again because, my thing was I just never wanted to fight, Mike.
Yeah.
My motivation would always be if I'm going to be a fighter, I got to be a world champion. I just, once you reach that pinnacle. So
do you feel
beat me,
after the loss to James Toney, although you did regain a world title up at 168,
well, that's my motivation.
Do you feel you never quite recaptured that form that you had pre-Tony ever again?
Yeah, I think you get older, then you lose the motivation, even though you become a champion. But I needed the right fights, and my thing was once I got to the pinnacle, my super fights when I could have them. I was still boxed, but it wasn't like before that.
Not the same.
It wasn't the same. Things changed, and I still had the style and the condition to be able to beat the guys I was fighting. But, it's just something about when you can't get the super fights, it changes your whole perspective because that's what I fought all my life to be able to do. And unfortunately, I never got the opportunity. And it's something I don't think about now, kind of like put in the background because I'm dear friends with Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray and Duran. Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy and Duran. So I see them guys, I'd be like, hey, you guys know y'all should have fought me. You know what I'm saying? They're like, y'all say,
but Michael, let me ask you, do you know how really close you were to becoming like that type of fight, like that Sugar Ray, that
era-defining fighter,
like that legendary, like just iconic fighter at that time? Like I remember after your fight with Sambu Kalambe, and they never put boxing, unless it was, I don't know, Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson. I remember coming in and I saw the Post, the New York Post, and on the back page was the cover. Like the front page is the cover for the, I don't know, just like whatever went on in the world. Like if there was a war, they'd put that on the cover. On the back cover was the biggest sports story, whatever the biggest sports story was. And the fact that you were on the cover of the New York Post was like insane, like in terms of athletic wise. So I'm like, did you realize like the kind of
how close you
were making on the sports?
No, I think I lost focus, after, winning so many fights and kind of like, breaking off from the goose and doing my own thing. I think, I done things the way I wanted to do, and that probably wasn't always the best decision, but hey, I made whatever decision I made, I got to live with it. But, my thing was, I just wanted to fight, them three guys. And after that, I just like, I don't got the box
cruise control.
I think I've done enough, but, I think I could have been better, at hindsight looking back, but, things happen for a reason, man. And I'm thankful that, I was still able to become a successful fighter. And I'm a Hall of Fame fighter still. And we can always be better, but, we all make mistakes, but you can't cry about stuff. No.
Are we looking at an induction to Canastota soon? Did I hear something?
Well, I think so. I know they put me on the ballot. I know December. I think they're supposed to make the announcement like within the first or second week of December. So, God willing, I'm praying, man, that Ed Brophy them call my name because I think I've done enough throughout my career to be inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. I'm in the I'm in the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. I'm in the West Coast Boxing Hall of Fame. I'm going to the NBA National Hall of Fame at the first of the year. And so then we got the West Coast, which is Rick Ferris and his crew.
Yes.
I'm waiting on Canastota. That's the one I'm hoping and praying for. And God willing, the second week of December or the first week, they'll be giving me a call or they'll be making an announcement. And I want to come to upstate New York and get my flowers given to me while I'm here. God willing.
Okay, I'm going to jump back for just a second. I'm sorry. I just got to figure something out because when you fought James Toney, Dan Goosen actually called the fight, and that was the first fight you guys were separate. He was on the announcing side, right? Wasn't he?
I don't recall.
That rings a bell.
Yeah, I think Dan Goosen was like sitting there and actually commentating on the fight when you were fighting Tony. And then
it was Joe Goosen. Was it Joe or was it Dan?
Joe Goosen. Sorry,
Joe
Goosen.
Okay, yeah, because Dan ain't never commentated. But
yeah.
Goosen,
my bad, Joe Goosen. Yeah,
Joe.
So Joe Goosen was commentating on the fight, and you had Angelo Dundee in your corner. How did this relationship and why did this relationship happen between you and Angelo?
Well, I didn't have no trainer. I needed a trainer, so we called Angelo Dundee and we put something together, and we was able to form a team and done what we done.
That was your first fight with Angelo, right?
No. Was it?
I think they've done some work before, like with Donald Curry.
No, we done some work before. No, because I fought Donald Curry. I think Donald Curry was my first fight with Angelo.
There you go.
I think 3 fights, maybe 3-4 fights with Angelo before that. At least 2. But I want to say the Donald Curry fight, October 19th of 1990. I think that was
Paris.
the first fight. Yeah, Paris, France. Yeah, with Donald Curry. That was the first fight right there with Donald Curry. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How was Curry when you fought him?
Well, believe it or not, he wasn't the best like he was when he was welterweight. But one thing about him, he was a good boxer, a very calculated puncher, could hit. I mean, the guy hit like a mule kicking, man. That guy, he hit me in the 7th round. When he hit me in the 7th round, because me and Donald, we was buddies, but we fought, you know what I'm saying? Because that was our profession, that was our duties. And I remember him throwing a straight left jab, and he turned that jab over to a left hook, man. And when he hit me, man, it's like the house fell on me, right? And I'm like, and I like, the electricity in my head and everything. I'm like, what the hell? I was like, I got to start fighting this dude. We've been fighting with it, just one of them fights. I'm just going through the motion. Yeah. But when he hit me at that level, woo!
Break you
up. I fought. So within the next 2 rounds, I ended up coming back, stopping him. But Donald Curry's a great fighter. Got nothing but admiration and respect for him. A super guy, man, and a good fighter.
Yeah. Do you still have you been in touch? Have you talked to him at all?
Pardon me?
When was the last time you've heard or talked to Donald Curry, for instance?
It's probably been some years, but I had spoke to a guy like in Dallas sometime last year. I heard Donald was going through some things, and I was trying to reach out to him, just extend my hand to the guy because he was a phenomenal guy. Matter of fact, when I boxed at the Olympic trials back in like '84, Donald Curry was the world welterweight champion. So I'm in Dallas. I didn't know nobody. I'm just a guy from Iowa there, and Donald Curry took me to his mother's house and fed me, and I mean, just super guy. He is welterweight champion of the world. We had a good relationship, so I was just trying to reach back out to him after I heard he was going through some things. But it's been a while, man. But I try to stay in contact with the fighters. You know what I'm saying? I mean, especially the guys that I fought. Like me and you never fought, Mike, but we stay in pretty good communication. Guys like Iran Barkley, John Scully, man, James Tony. I love the guys, and I call Ray Leonard every now and then. Him and Thomas Hearn. And talk smack to him. Say, man, let's do an exhibition. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you.
When we seen Duran a few weeks ago, I told Duran, I said, Duran, you owe me one, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because Steve Wynn had a check on the table, but Duran never signed a contract because I know Dan Goosen had told me, so we're coming close to the Roberto Duran fight. And I'm saying to myself, wow, as a young kid growing up, I idolized watching Roberto Duran, and me being in the ring with him was kind of, weird, but it's business. I understand it. I love the opportunity to, test my skills with the legendary Manos de Paris, Heads of Stone, legendary fighter. You know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, never transpired.
How was it growing up in Davenport, Iowa? Like I have an idea of what Davenport, Iowa is like. And
you got to figure Davenport, Iowa is just a regular, little small Midwestern town, man. I mean, it's not like New York City or California. It's just, everybody knows everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's a small community, and all the families know each
the,
other.
The Black community is small there, or
well, believe it or not, it's not as small as you think it is, because back in the 60s, a lot of people from the South moved to the North, but it's a bigger Black community than you'd probably anticipate. But we got a pretty extensive contingency of Black people in the Quad Cities, man. I mean, it's grown over the years, but you'd be surprised. But when people think of Iowa, they think of probably, mostly Caucasian people. But, you got to remember back in the 60s and the 70s, a lot of people from down South moved up North to get the better jobs.
That's true,
that's what made a lot of people migrate. But, it's a lovely community that, like I say, where would I be without Davenport, Iowa? And I always give, special shout outs because, me being from Iowa and, never been a world champion, I'm the first. So I had to give the people something to talk about, man. So, I want to thank all the people back there for always sharing their support and their love for me and always, being in my corner, So,
of course, And were your mother and father, you were raised by both, like?
No, just my mother. My mother, that's my king. She's my king, my queen. She's my everything. And, I think out of all the people in the world, she inspired me to be the best I could be, because she should always tell me, don't worry about what nobody say. You do your job and keep praying to God, and you're going to get over the hump. And,
so your father wasn't any part of your life when you were
he was, but he wasn't. But, my mother, she's my everything. She inspired me to do, all the things I've done.
So, my mom too. My father was my trainer.
No about it. And if you go back and look at Michael Nunn's fights, about 80 to 90% of my fights, after I got done fighting, my mother was always in the ring with me. She was like my bodyguard. So that was like my pet, my pet peeve to have my mother in the ring. She sat ringside and then she'd get up in the ring and, let the world know that, hey, you see my son perform. And she gave me all the motivation and the sinners I needed to be the fighter that I became, and I'm thankful for it. Thank God.
And is she still there in Davenport?
No, my mother passed. No, she passed.
I'm sorry.
But she watches over me every day. You know what I'm saying?
Of course, And your father as well?
He passed too. Yes, sir. Yeah.
And you have brothers and sisters?
I got brothers and sisters. I got kids. I got grandkids, and a contingency of family members. And hey, man, they keep me busy. So I'm blessed, man.
Guys, we got 3 minutes. By the way, I like your technique, Silk. It feels like you're doing the interview backwards. We talk about the career, we talk about his matchups and hypotheticals. Then you say, "Tell me about your childhood, or what was it like in Davenport, Iowa?"
Oh man,
you do everything.
I love Davenport.
Do everything different, don't you?
Without Davenport, wouldn't be no me. So I mean, I'm thankful for my background and the way I come up in Davenport, and it motivated me to want to be the best, coming from a small community like the Quad Cities.
For sure, no doubt. Okay, guys, I say we got 2.5 minutes. We said we wouldn't go over an hour. That was what we I think. I don't know what happens after an hour. I don't know if we turn.
Well, that's what happens. You always go over.
Yeah. But
I love this
closing question, Silk. One closing question, because I know you had so much you wanted to say to this guy, and I know you haven't even managed to say it all. So it's yours for the last 2 minutes.
I guess I'd have to say, what point in everyone's life there comes a point when hard times comes into the equation. You know what I mean? Like, I know that every single fighter goes through a darkest period, and people don't really understand. I mean, every day people do as well, but dark things come into our life, and it just affects us professionally and personally, and just in every way, especially your performance in the ring. You have to be so physical. You have to be so mentally on point at all times. Distractions happen in our life, and that gets taken away from us. What's the darkest period of your life, I guess, is what I want to say. And how did you come out of that? Like, how do you lift yourself up?
Probably going to federal prison, Mike. It's probably been the darkest moment of my life, because, my life's been very successful, and I've pretty much done whatever I want to do in life. And that would probably be the darkest times. They gave me 24 years, and I ended up doing 16.6. And then the President Obama and his team put this thing together called the 2-point reduction, and it was given to like 35,000 men of color. Gave me a prison reduction, which sent me home February 19th. February 6th, 2019. I was released. I wasn't supposed to be released to like March 19th, 2024, but with the 57 months being deducted off my sentence, I was sent home February 6th, 2019.
So you would have still would have been in prison today.
I had 5 more years to do. I would be in jail December 19th, 2024, if it wasn't for the 2-point reduction given to me by the president, Joe Biden's administration, and Mr. Barack Obama. So, thank God for them guys, man. And I can't wait to go see Obama. And when I see him, God willing, I'll be able to thank him for signing my paperwork to be able to allow me to get out of jail 57 months before I was supposed to be released. So it's a blessing. I was supposed to be in jail December 19th, 2024. And I've been home I've been home almost 4 years come February. So, God's been good to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I can't tell you how glad we were to have this audience with you tonight. It would have sucked.
Thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure being in.
Oh man, we're just getting to the good part. We're just getting juicy.
Well, I already know. That's why we need 2 hours, man. That's why we need 2 hours.
You want to keep talking? Listen, I don't think we're going to get taken off the air if we keep talking. We've never gone over an hour, so I don't know what happens. You want to keep talking, we keep talking.
Well, we keep talking, but no doubt about it. Well, it's always great, man. And then, like I said, Michael Olajide, they always had a great admiration and respect for him. Always a class guy. Liked him and his father. They were always first class. And we wanted to fight, but unfortunately things didn't go the way they went. But we got great admiration. We were just together a few weeks ago in Atlantic City, and it was like, hey, 2 brothers hadn't seen each other, man. You know what I'm saying? So
it's the first time we'd ever met in all the time we've been contenders.
Right. It's crazy.
Never been in the same spot. Never. I mean, I'd never heard your voice live. You know what I mean? I'm surprised. What happened on the Hagler Leonard fight? You didn't go that day, did you?
Did I go to that fight?
To the Hagler Leonard fight?
No, I don't think I was there.
Yeah, I'm like I really expected to see you there. I was, I was. Unfortunately for me, I was standing and sitting beside Bo Derek, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
That was
Were you, Michael? Were you getting signals off of her?
Somebody's fine as Bo Derek, no doubt about it. I can imagine. Right?
were you getting signals off her, Silk? Did you think?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You told me that, right?
Before we went into the actual to our seats, we were kind of all held in like what they call like the bullpen right before you can go out and into the arena. And I got a few vibes, you know what I mean? It was like up the back of my neck. I was like, oh, you know what I mean? She's like, I'm joking, obviously.
Yeah.
Anything to make you feel better, man. Anything to make you feel better.
No, but I'm sorry to be jumping all over the map and stuff like that.
That's all good, man. That's what we're here for. We talking, so I mean, hey, feel free.
Yeah. So give me the words to being incarcerated for that length of time. Here you are, you're a free man, you've got money to do whatever you want. You're on the upswing with your professional career. I mean, you'd had like what was his name from Italy? Rocky
Gianfranco Rossi.
No, it wasn't Gianfranco Rossi, it was Roccagini or something.
Racciani.
Racciani, yes. Yeah. Now that was a controversial loss, but if you look at it, you were like on a 13-fight upswing. You were KOing most of the guys, and then this happened. Now, supposedly there was something, and I understand that there was kind of very shady what happened to you and how things.
I'm gonna tell you one thing, Mike, and not to cut you off, man. Yeah. Once I found out what they done, man. Yeah, it was so tragic. It was so sad, but I mean, as we was fighting, I thought I beat the man fair and square. Yeah, we were over in Berlin, Germany. I mean, it was amazing. I can show you some history, man. How the referees being so unprofessional. In between the rounds, he's going over to the corner, telling him to score the fight, and he needs to do this or do that. And one thing I'm gonna say about Dan Goosen, let him rest in peace. He fought these people to the bitter end. Yeah. Because, we would have had a liable suit against the WC and those clowns over there in Berlin for the way that they done that. Because, it's tragic and sad when a man goes out and wins a fight and then you take a fight from him. It's bad. It's the way they done it. I'm going to send you something, Mike, and I want you to read it, how the German people, how they orchestrated that loss. I give a lot of credit to Jose Sulaiman, let him rest in peace. But Mauricio, he's handling now. He's the president of the WC. What they done, they gave me an honorary championship belt, man. Honorary world light heavyweight championship belt.
Yeah, that just went down. Because of that.
It was so sad and so tragic. And I knew Joe Goosen tells me after the fight, hey, go out there and collect your third world championship. I go out there and they announce the decision. They give it to this guy Racciani, and I'm like, sick, right? I'm like, I'm distraught because you know, one thing about when we win fights and lose fights, we know when we win, we know we lose. Right or wrong, Mike? It's already instilled in our head. We know we done enough to win the fight, and I'm like, just like I'm distraught because like when I go out there and I handle this kid over 12 rounds, I mean, hands down, and then to go out and they tell me he gets a split decision. I beat the man up so bad he couldn't even come to the press conference after the fight. We get up to the press thing. Me and Joe, we up on the dais, just me and Joe. We waiting on him and his team to come. They don't even come. They know they got a gift decision. But I'm very thankful for Mr. Jose Suleiman for honoring me with the WBC lightweight championship belt of the world. My thing is never to sue no organization, do none of that stuff because fights are won inside the ring. But Dan Goosen was doing his part. I mean, he done everything in his power to like try to get that rectified. But it's just sad, man. But I mean, it's bad. When I say bad, man. And that's the only thing I don't like about boxing, when you take something from somebody, especially when you go earn it. But like I said, the WBC, they when I got home, Jose had told me when I was in federal prison, when I got home, they was gonna give me the honorary lightweight championship belt of the world, and they honored their decision, and they gave it to me because that was the only belt I didn't have.
Mike, were you
IBF middleweight championship. I had the IBF middleweight championship. I won a WBA super middleweight championship, and I always wanted that green belt. It was something about that green belt.
The green belt
it was just something about that green belt, man.
The green belt was the move.
I got the green belt, man, and God bless me to have it.
The green belt was absolutely the move.
Yeah, it was everything, and you know, I'm so thankful for the WBC to give me an honorary lightweight championship belt of the world. But you know, I think I was a lightweight champion of the world because I went out there that day and I did everything I could do in my power to win the fight. But those crooked German judges, hey, they done what they done. They robbed me. I mean, in broad daylight. And the thing about it, all the German fans, I want to say the name of the place was Back Smelling Arena, and it was like a 10,000 partisan crowd of German people, and they really was distraught, man. They was mad because they screwed me around, but it was crazy, man. It was crazy. One of my worst. I ain't gonna say one of my worst fights ever because you know when you win a fight and they take it from you, man. Hey, man, that's like putting a man in jail for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So you know when you usually go to jail, 9 out of 10 you do something to go to jail, but you talk about rob a man and just like, hey, man. That's
Mike, how does a man like you, who's at the top, the peak of everything, how do you spend that much time incarcerated? Like, what's going through your mind? Like every day?
Well, I want to thank my family for having a real strong supporting cast, and a strong mother, children, and families and friends. Because like I say, I had a good strong safety net, and then for me to be back out doing my thing and keeping it moving and not laying down and not taking those shorts and just being strong and being resilient and being relentless, and just having a big heart and being just being that guy, man. I thank God for putting me in the position He put me in. You know what I'm saying? Because one thing about us, we don't have to quit, man. We know to keep swinging.
One thing I will say about Michael Nunn is that it's amazing how upbeat and positive and just full of charisma and carefreeness and youthfulness he is. When you consider what happened to him, and it certainly sounds like it was an absolute travesty, and it was something that was way over the top given whatever the circumstances were. I think it's utterly amazing that he's as upbeat and as clearly happy as he is. I think it's incredible.
I just wanted to ask, because you're wearing your sharp, and there was like the gentleman who kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? There was an interaction. Somebody, like, there was an undercover policeman or something.
They
call it a sting.
What it was a guy that I knew. He's good friends. Well, he's a guy that I knew. I'm not going to say a good friend, but he's a guy that I knew. We had orchestrated the deal, and what happened? He got jammed up with the feds, and they mentioned my name to the feds, and they had like a 10-year drug investigation on me, right? And they always wanted to catch me, right? Because they heard or whatever, through people running their mouth or whatever, and they just figured like, well, I've been doing whatever, and they had opportunity to really nab me, so they done everything in their power to get me, and they used the informant to do what they needed to do, and that's how they nabbed me.
So it wasn't a police informant; it was somebody you knew. It was another informant.
Yeah, it was somebody I knew. Yeah, he was an informant. He was working with the feds.
God.
Wait, I'm doing an interview, Cal. Wait just a second. Hey, Battle, grab the door. But like I said, what happened? The feds wanted me so bad that, because they knew I was a middleweight champion of the world or whatever, and it's brownie points to them. And then, from a small community in Iowa, I'm a black guy, got a big old nice house. I got limousines, I got cars and this and that. And I'm a hot shot in town. And a lot of people didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times you think people are your friends, but they're not. But, you go through life to go through it. And, I'm thankful to be in the position I am to be able to, be able to get out of jail and be able to get myself back in contention and to be able to, capitalize and grow and, be the best I can be. But, it's funny like that, man. I mean, now that I can resonate and look back, hey, man, I ain't mad at nobody, man. Y'all, hey, they done their job, but it's just where you guys done it. And, that's how they operate. And I mean, I'm sure if I could have been an informant or whatever for the FBI or the government, I'd have probably done like 2 years in jail. But unfortunately, whatever I done as a man. And, hey, I don't take nothing back. I done what I done. And I'm a man. I went to jail like a man. I came home like a man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not being obnoxious, so the government's listening. You don't no longer have to watch Michael Nunn. I'm no longer involved in no type of activity, generate no type of trouble. So, and like I said, I don't have to badmouth nobody. I went to jail like a man. I came home like a man, and I thank God for being able to get me through it because being in jail is no easy task. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no.
And you got to remember, I was in the federal penitentiary, and when I say federal penitentiary, you got guys from all over the world. You got the Russian mafia, you got the Colombian drug guys, you got the Mexican cartel, you got the Aryans, you got the black gangs. You got people from different. Walks
how did you
world.
survive? Did you not affiliate with anybody? How did you survive?
Well, it wasn't so much. You can't say not affiliate because when you're in prison, you don't have you're around a lot of people. But my thing was I was never involved with no gang activity. I know guys and I know people in certain organizations, but their business is their business. It had nothing to do with Michael Nunn's business. They didn't bother me. I didn't bother them, and I respected them and they respected me. But when you're in jail with a lot of people. You're in jail with the Russians. You're in jail with the Colombians, the Cubans, the Dominicans, the Czechoslovakians. I mean, so the Americans. So I mean, hey, when you're in federal prison, man, you can't, you be locked up with some of the terrorist guys. So you're locked up with a bunch of just brutal people, man.
So did you just did you
guys? Our host has got to go soon, Michael. Our host has got to go soon. That means we should close this in a professional way.
Thank you very much, man. God bless y'all.
This was amazing. This is amazing.
Thank you guys. Yes, sir.
Give me 30 seconds to close it. That's cool. But we could talk all day. We could do another. We do another episode. We'll do Michael Nunn part
Sounds like a plan, man. But like I said, it's been an honor talking to both of you gentlemen, man.
Michael, listen, when we get together again, we're gonna have a good time, bro.
We're gonna definitely have a great time, and hopefully soon, Mike.
John Scully is doing something out here soon. I hope you can get back to the coast, and if you can,
next year,
give me a heads up on it, man. I'll try to get back to the East Coast, man. No doubt.
I will.
Okay, guys. Thanks so much for joining us, champ. Thank you, Michael, as always. It was great to see you guys.
Take it easy.
Interact.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That was episode 6 of Sugar and Silk. In the meantime, you can catch this if you're only just tuning in now. You can catch it on Facebook to catch up. You can catch it on Spotify as of tomorrow. Get involved with A.C.E Podcast Nation and make all of these wonderful things possible. You can become a member on Patreon. In the meantime, just be lucky and keep punching. Peace out.
Peace out.